In this video, I wanted to answer a question that came in on my YouTube channel. Great comment from Harumi. And I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but the question was excellent. It says, can you do a video on how to acquire a business step by step from the absolute beginning and for beginners? Do we form an LLC first, apply to the loan, and then search for a business that we want to buy? It'd be great if there was a video like that. Okay, so here is that video. Let's walk through it. So if I were you, from the absolute beginning, before you even think about getting the LLC, before you start searching for businesses to buy, I would do a couple steps first. And if you can do all of these steps in just a Google document or Word document, I think it's going to help you in the long run. And also it will be fun to look back and see what your assumptions were when you bought a business. So the first question I would put on my document is, why do I want to buy a business? So, and then the other thing you could do as a prompt is, I'm hoping X, Y, and Z will be different in my life once I buy a business. So even if you just, do some bullet points, maybe bullet point 1, I won't have to wake up as early. Bullet point 2, I will be able to take 3 weeks of vacation and go to Florida every year. Bullet point 3, I will make more money. Bullet point 4, I won't have to deal with this boss. Whatever those things are that is the pain that is in your life that you don't want to, have happen in your next business, that most of the time people that actually buy businesses are in some sort of pain. And I know that this sounds maybe bad, but it's true, because people that are in high-paying jobs, that they feel like their skills are being used, they feel like they're fairly paid, they like their boss okay, and they're just trying to buy a business so that they can make a little bit of extra money. When I hear a business buyer tell me that, I always think, oh no, all right, here we go. Because I know that 8 out of 10 of those buyers aren't actually going to buy anything. Because pain rather than pleasure is actually more of a motivator, to be honest. If you hate your job, if you just feel vastly underpaid, if you know you're contributing more, if you're tired of, the restrictions, if you yada yada. I mean, there's so many things. Like if you are frustrated, you're way more likely to take action and push through all of the challenges that are going to come when you buy a business, because you are really trying to get from where you are currently to a future destination. If you're looking at just an investment, like, maybe look at rental properties or buy some more stocks or do something else, because honestly, buying a business, unless you think this may be a path forward for you in the future, it's not easy. So if you're thinking, I'm just going to keep my W-2 job and always have like a little side hustle, maybe that will work, but I see in most of the cases it doesn't. So write down those reasons, write down those pain points. Next, what I would do is I would develop a personal budget. So maybe you already have one, but I would try to do your budget on like, what's the lowest amount of money on a monthly basis that you could possibly make and still be okay. Not great, but okay. Like take out all of the luxuries. Okay, I'm not going to get my nails done anymore. I'm going to cancel the gym membership. I can work out from home. I'm going to cancel Hulu. What could you get down to on the lowest level and still be okay? I would have that number in mind. Then I'd have the okay number, like, all right, I'm not going to be putting money in savings, but I'm still can kind of maintain most of my lifestyle. I'm not going to go on as fancy of a vacation, but I'm not changing a lot about my life, and this is the number I need. And then I also think it's important to put down your ideal budget. And this is like, if I could reasonably make this amount of money, what would I want to spend my money on? In a perfect world, I would give $50,000 a year to charity, and I would fly first class everywhere, and I'd take, 3 trips a year with my family. So you can calculate those numbers, like write down every single amount. I would belong to this country club. Okay, total all of that up, and then find out what that amount is, because you want to have a plan to get to your ideal income. This is the dream scenario. And sometimes people think like, I have to be, a multimillionaire to get this. Well, sometimes the number is actually less than they think. So write it all down. So the next and I think this is a critical step that people forget about, is you need to discuss this with your spouse. So, float out the idea of, I'm thinking about buying a business. Like, here's where we are from a personal budgeting standpoint. Here's what I've come up with numbers, like the lowest possible I need to make or the okay budget. What do you feel comfortable in doing? Like, how much are you willing to sacrifice of our lifestyle in order to get what we want long term, or in order to hear me stop complaining about my job? And then decide on that number together. Also decide with your spouse how much money out of your savings you are willing to put for a down payment. And keep in mind, it's typically about 10% of the business sale price. Sometimes it's 5%. So that means if you're going to buy a $1 million business, you likely need $50,000 to $100,000 and maybe even another $50,000 to $100,000 in buffer. So maybe $150,000 tucked away somewhere. So how much money are you willing to invest in that down payment? Is your spouse comfortable with that? And where are we going to pull that money from? Are you comfortable rolling over your 401k and using your 401k money to put that down payment down? Are you comfortable taking out a home equity line of credit on your house? Are you comfortable cashing out these stocks? There's a lot of different ways that people buy businesses and get the money for the down payment. But you need to, if you have another person that's involved in the financial decisions in your house, don't make the mistake of assuming things and then, it's not accurate. So have that discussion early. And then that will help create some framework around how much of a business you can actually afford. So what you need the cash flow to be and what you need the purchase price to be, which are two huge variables. So next, after that, I would get pre-qualified with a bank that does a lot of business acquisitions. And I would also ask them any questions that you have about the lending process. So a couple that I would recommend, Credit Bench, Live Oak, and Huntington Bank. Those are all three national lenders. They do lots of SBA loans. And if you have a pre-qualification letter from one of those banks, a lot of times brokers will be familiar with that bank, and that will be a more trustworthy signal to them that you are a qualified buyer than if you just went up the street and got some letter from a bank that is very small that they've never heard of. So go to one of those larger lenders, and I would definitely reach out to me if you're interested in getting pre-qualified, because I have some of my favorite lenders at each of those institutions. Just like any profession, some people are better, more responsive, yada, yada. And so over time, we all develop our favorites. So reach out to me and I'm happy to put you in touch to get that pre-qualification letter. So now you have the why, you have your budget, you have your spouse on board, at a high level, you have that letter in hand. Now, at this point, I would file for your LLC. And so this is if you are like 100%, I am going to buy a business in the next, 2 years, no matter what. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to either start one, buy one. I'm going to start a franchise. I don't care. I'm going to figure it out. If you're in that position, I would just jump right into filing the LLC. If you're just like, I don't know, this could be interesting, then I would start shopping around and kind of like looking on the websites to see what types of things are available before you go through this process. But honestly, if you have in your mind you're going to do this and you are committed to it, and that's what it takes, honestly, to be a business owner and a business buyer is commitment. Sometimes it helps just making that first step, spending a couple of $100s to get your LLC, and then boom, that's done. And you can just set the LLC with a generic name. It doesn't need to be anything like, ABC Trucking Company LLC. You don't know what business you're going to buy. So, and often it's nice to have that LLC kind of be separate from your business name, because it's harder for people to look up online and see who the owner is. So I can't remember, I think it's like the corporate veil, or there's some word for that. But basically, sometimes it's better to have an LLC name that's different than your existing owner name. So you might as well just go and get your LLC. Next, I would inventory your personal assets. So you've already kind of thought about down payment. and you've asked the banker some questions and you understand how the loan process works. But now there's a lot of assets that you have that are non-financial. And those are really, what are the skills and training that you have? Where did you, what did you study in school? What experience do you have? What interests do you have? What things are you just naturally interested in? And who is in your network? And those are 4 things that I would just spend some time writing down. Write down a couple bullets under each of those, and it kind of gives you an idea of maybe you can see some patterns. Okay, I'm really interested in this, and I have these experiences, and these skills. So I think that is important, and I think that people overestimate the interest side of it. You don't have to be 100% in love with whatever business product or service your business creates. Maybe you're really passionate about leadership, or maybe you're really love doing deals and you love sales. That is an interest of yours that can translate into a lot of different businesses. Just because your hobby is fishing doesn't mean a fishing business is right for you, right? I see a lot of people make that mistake, but think about who your customers will be from an interest standpoint. Who are the people that I like to surround myself? What are they like? What are their characteristics? What are their demographics? Because for me, I love business owners. It's women, men, I don't care, ages, all over the board. Every business owner I meet, to me, is fascinating in some way. They are betting on themselves. They are risk takers. They're bold. They're out there. They're normally trying to develop themselves further because they are going to learn, and apply that to their business. Those are the type of people I personally really love working with. And so my business is a good business for me because I like the people I get to associate with a lot of the time. Maybe you have a lot of nurses in your family and a lot of caregivers, and you really like working with women and mentoring other women and, that type of realm. Then that is think about where your customers could be a lot of women, or your employees could, you could mentor those women employees. So think about the people side as well. So after you've put that down, you can even look on your LinkedIn, freshen up your LinkedIn, or put together a resume. And then you have this document. You have why you want to buy a business, what you can afford, what your down payment is, some, criteria that you're looking for, your interest, experience, some details there. And now you have this all on a document plus your pre-qualification letter. So now you can start looking for businesses on some different websites. And if you're looking to buy an existing business, I think Biz Buy Sell is a good place to start. There's a lot of other ones, but most brokers are going to list businesses for sale on Biz Buy Sell. So when you go to Biz Buy Sell, search businesses to buy, and then I would set your criteria so that you're putting in for cash flow the range that you need to make minus the debt payments. So if you need to make, $100,000 a year at the minimum, you need to put for a minimum cash flow maybe $150,000 to, X amount of dollars. You could also put in business purchase price, but I would just, honestly, I'd start with cash flow. And then I would just start with a location like, Nebraska. And then I would just see what's out there and click on all the links, and anything that kind of catches your interest, I would just submit a message to the business broker and include in the description some of the points from your document. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I have for down payment. I'm looking to buy a business in the next year or 2 years. Here's, the more you put about yourself, and you can say, I'm pre-qualified, I'm happy to provide my pre-qualification letter. The more you put, honestly, the more serious the broker is going to take that message when they see it come across. Because so many people just put like a one-line thing in the description. I always take notice of people that seem like they've really reflected on this and they know what they want. So next step is to follow up. So you might sign the NDAs on the business. Ideally, once you submit something on Biz Buy Sell, they would send you the NDA right away. But if I'm being honest, there's a lot of brokers that don't ever send the NDA, or the business isn't really available. So I would just follow up. I mean, just, write down all the businesses you requested information on, and then call those brokers, call them every day, email them every day, be polite, of course. But I do think that the follow-up is really key, because you will demonstrate your interest and seriousness in buying that business if you're following up. If someone, of course, for me, I have automation that's set up so that once someone signs an NDA, I countersign the NDA, I look at their name, and then I automatically send out a level 1 packet. This doesn't include the business name, but includes a lot about the business. Some brokers don't have that automation set up. But so I do that automatically. And if I don't hear from the person and I'm having to call them to follow up and email them and say, what did you think? I will call, right? But I will put more emphasis on those buyers that are calling me, emailing me, and they are showing that they have a true interest in this business. I might spend more time on the phone with them. And if you can email that broker your pre-qualification letter, email them that document and say, hey, I really want your opinion on, based on what I'm looking for, do you think this is the right business for me? Or do you have other businesses that you would recommend? That broker will, often have other businesses that they're selling, and some of those might be a better fit. You might want this one, but hey, this is more likely to give you the lifestyle you want. You're more likely to be able to afford it. This seller is more motivated, so you're going to be able to get a better price. And so they'll be able to tell you those things. The other thing I would say is that as you're looking at these businesses, scroll and see who the listing broker is. It should say, like at the bottom, business listed by, and then it'll have the name of the broker and maybe their brokerage agency. So in my case, it would say business listed by AJ Kohler, First Choice Business Brokers. And so I would Google that broker's website, look up and see what other listings they have. You can also click on their name in Biz by Sell and then click on the For Sale tab. It's a little hard to see. And then you can see all the businesses they have for sale on Biz by Sell. But sometimes it's good just to go over to their website so you can, get a sense for what they have in total inventory, maybe a sense for who they are. And then you'll notice a pattern where there might be 2 or 3 local brokers that are doing the vast majority of sales. And so those are brokers that I would put on the top of my list to follow up with and convince them that I'm a credible buyer that they should spend their time on because I'm serious. And those brokers, if you have that relationship and if you follow up in a polite way, they might reach out to you early on if they have a listing that's, coming down the pipeline. A lot of times brokers know that they have something about 3 weeks before it goes on the market. And if you ask them, hey, please let me be your first phone call when you have something that's coming up. If there's something that's like this, you might get lucky and be able to kind of get a jump on a business. And, the first offer that's made is often, the one that a seller is going to accept. So don't wait. Be aggressive on, going after a business that you think is a good fit. The other thing that I would say is as you're reviewing, you've got the NDA, now you have the packet from the broker, you've understood a little bit about the business from the broker. Now I would say that you should, if I were in your shoes, I would say this business is in Nebraska. It is a daycare in Nebraska, but you haven't ever run a daycare before. You have interest, but you don't have direct experience. So you might not know the right questions you should be asking when thinking about acquiring a daycare. So do your research. Look on YouTube. Look on Google, what questions to ask when buying a daycare. I know this seems really simple, but I'm surprised at the lack of questions sometimes buyers have when they're going into a business. The other third step I would do beyond just YouTube and Google is to find a business owner that is in that industry that you could say pay $100 to look at the business with you. Get a list of questions, hear what they would think is the positives and negatives, what concerns they would have if they were buying that business. If the business is, the daycares in Nebraska, you could call up, daycares on the East Coast or in Kansas or Texas, someone that's not going to be competing. And if you're offering to pay a business owner for their time, it's well worth the $100. And, a lot of times a business owner at the end of the call will just be like, this is fine. I'll just do this. No need to pay me. It was a good experience. People like to be asked for their advice sometimes. So do that because you are going to uncover more things that you should know. So then you can go back, ask the broker those questions. And when you have like about an 80 to 90% feel for the business that like, yes, this is the business for me based on all I know so far, I would ask the broker if it would be okay if you would meet the business owner or what other steps in the process they need you to complete before you're able to speak with the business owner. And then you meet the owner, and then you submit your offer. So if you don't already have a lawyer that can help you write a letter of intent, you can also probably find templates online, and maybe I'll record a video of things to include. Sometimes the broker will be able to help you write the asset purchase agreement, but it's still good to know like what things might be important to you. And so I'll have to record a whole separate video on that later, but maybe start thinking about the LOI process so that you have a template ready. So when you are ready to make that offer, you don't have to then like try to run out and figure all that out. And maybe you do it too quickly and you forget things. So I would just try to have that prepared in advance as you're looking at all these different businesses. So then you submit your offer, you go through the negotiations, and I would say if I were in your shoes, I probably wouldn't submit my best and final offer, the first offer. I would make it a reasonable ask. Don't, do anything completely ridiculous, but that's my take at least, but maybe lower than you think you can get the business for, much better than you'd be even think would be possible. You can ask for that and see what they come back with. You never know. But plan to go back, 1 or 2 times in the negotiations. And then your offer is going to be contingent upon you getting bank financing and bank approval on this particular business. It's also going to be contingent on due diligence. And I always suggest, 2 to 3 weeks or a month of due diligence. And so you're going to be able to do more review. And then also at that time is when you're going to actually reach out to the loan officer, provide all of the documents that they're asking for. They're probably going to ask for more documents, and you're going to submit your completed loan application maybe 5 days or so after you've submitted that offer. And then from there, it might take a little bit for them to fully approve the loan and give you a letter of commitment. And then it's going to take a little bit to close and fully fund that loan. But that's kind of the order of events. You don't apply for the loan until you actually find the business that you're going to buy. You would just be pre-qualified as a buyer, a theoretical buyer. And so then you're going to go through those processes. And then once you're signed off on due diligence, you've transferred any leases, all the loan commitment has come through, all of the lien searches have been completed by the title company, everything is good to go. Then you are going to close on the business. And then you normally have a period of a couple of weeks of transition time where the new owner is training you on how to operate the business. That's also the point that you will be introduced to the employees often. That will be the first time meeting a lot of these employees. And so you want to kind of have in your mind what you want to share with employees. And maybe there's some retention bonuses you can offer or other things, just reassuring them that their jobs are safe and, sharing more about who you are. And then you're really off to the races. You've gone start to finish on from conceptualizing why you want to buy a business to all the nuts and bolts, and then now you have your new business. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this answered your question. If you have more detailed questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me or leave a comment on LinkedIn or on my YouTube post. I do read every single one of those, and the questions are helpful in learning what you guys are interested in covering next. So thanks for listening. I'm AJ Kohler with First Choice Business Brokers in Nebraska. So you can look me up on LinkedIn, or you can find me on my website. My number is there, so feel free to call if you have any questions, whether you're a business seller or a business buyer. I'm happy to help you.